Welcome to Free Play. Today we're looking at Gunforce, Battle Engulf Terror Island. Gunforce is a weird creature because it's kind of like an upscaled Contra, but it also has a lot of disparate elements that seem cobbled together from movies that the developers wanted to see in a game. It's kind of like a prototype for Metal Slug, but more on that later. IREM Games is responsible for a fair chunk of the classic NES library, like Kid Nicky and Kung Fu Master, and would later produce the excellent Ninja Baseball Batman beat-em-up. Oh, right, and I guess they did R-Type, too. Only one of the genre-defining side-scrolling shoot-em-ups. Yeah, you know how it goes. Sadly, IREM is no longer really making the rounds in the gaming scene, going back to its roots as a pachinko manufacturer. Gunforce is the story of some guy going to fight some dudes, because that's really all the explanation given, as usual. I know 1991 was a simpler time, but come on, give me something to work off of here. Standing between you and the end of the mission is an army full of cyborgs, robots, and war machines. Your weapons can be fired in 8 directions, which isn't specifically that interesting for the time, since Contra did it too, but the game also features pickups like lasers, heavy machine guns, and a bazooka. Additionally, you can pilot certain vehicles like a tank or a turret for certain sections. This is not exactly something that should blow your mind, but considering this was made in 1991, it's nothing really to scoff at. Of course, you die in one hit, because that's what these sort of games are all about. They're not after a fair time, they're after your quarters. Though you will find more than a few frustrating sections that will test the limits of your wallet and your sanity. If you're playing it like I do on free play mode, you can blow through it without too much trouble. Get ready to damage boost like crazy though, because this game can get unforgiving, especially considering most of the bosses aren't pattern-based at all. They have a weak point, you shoot weak point, you die several dozen times along the way. You know, if they really wanted this particular mission to go off without a hitch, maybe the powers that be could have sprung for some body armor, or maybe a tank or 7? Oop, thank you. The bosses are your standard fare of turrets and buildings all with a grudge against your face, and they're relatively easy to handle. And then it gets weird. So you battle your way to the bottom of this lab, and then there's some sort of pod creature that looks like Reptile from Mortal Kombat, giving you the stank eye. Suddenly he's spawning aliens and everything is going wrong. Ah, I see this is before they mastered the art of subtle hints. I suppose once you get to the point that you've run out of buildings and Abitox is fresh in everyone's minds, aliens makes just as much sense as anything else. Gunforce also got ported to the SNES, but the home version lacked nearly the same enemy saturation and quick gameplay that the other had. Shame, really. Well, I have to say I was quite impressed with Gunforce, to be perfectly honest. The graphics are big, and while they're limited in their animation, there's a lot of depth to the sprites. However, with big sprites comes big hitboxes, which means you will eat dirt an awful lot. The bosses also have very specific hitboxes, which seems like a bad choice if you have to be both accurate and quick. The enemies don't kill you on touch, but they do lay down some cruel rates of fire. However, the slowdown in the game is minimal, even when the screen gets particularly crowded. The muted color palette really isn't doing it any favors, but it's not so bad. So, when all is said and done, does it get the free play quarter of approval, or the slug of shame? Again, the game plays pretty well, but the difficulty is more frustrating than challenging. But with a bit of pluck and determination, this game can be blown through in under 20 minutes. Really, if it was any longer, it might have actually worn out its welcome. The game itself is fun, but it makes me hungry for Metal Slug. So yes, it gets the free play quarter of approval. Join us next time when we look at its sequel, Gunforce 2. If you like what you saw, consider donating to my Patreon to get early access to all the new vids as they come out. And as always, thanks for watching.